Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Maxace Knives Sandstorm K. There are two versions of this knife, and I just want to make this clear. This is the version that's less expensive with the G10 scales. This is layered G10. It's honestly really nice. The K110, Bowler K110 equivalent of D2 steel. Less expensive version. There is a more expensive, larger version called the Sandstorm V2. This is a titanium integral in M390. Much more expensive, much more beefy. That's not the one we're reviewing today. I'll put them side by side so you can see. Yeah, no, we're actually going to take a look at the less expensive one today. Where can you pick this up? It's kind of spotty. I will link this if I can. There are, as far as reputable dealers go, it's fairly sold out at the time of this video, but I'll link, if I can find a place where I think is trustworthy where you guys can pick it up, I will link it down in the description. Thank you so much to Maxace for sending this and the larger Sandstorm in for me to take a look at. I really appreciate that. Make sure you guys check them out on Instagram and check out other knives they've got available. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is a huge knife, not small at all. Dr. Seuss. Overall length coming in at 9.75, almost 9.8 inches. Blade length, a hair shy of 4.5. It's like 4.3 inches. Cutting edge is literally 4.25 on this guy. Big. How about some size comparisons? Up against what I would call a full-size knife, the Ontario Rat Model 1 at about 8.6 inches, and the Ontario Rat Model 2. This is huge. It's a huge knife. Absolutely. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3? Once again, obviously a lot bigger. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and everybody's favorite, the Benchmade Bug Out. Yeah, huge. I think we've got it, right? Let's do carry profile, because this guy's not thin. So, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Yeah, it's thick. And here's the crazy thing, guys. This guy ain't nothing compared to the bigger brother, right? So, Para 3, a knife that a lot of people would not call super thin. Definitely thinner than the Sandstorm K, but look at this, right? We'll talk about this guy some more in the actual review. This thing is big. It's beefy, right? Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Yeah, it's a lot longer, and it's a lot taller. A lot. It's way taller than the PM2, right? Or Para 3. This is big, right? It's not going to be super comfortable in the pocket. If you work outside, dedicated outside, heavy-duty work pants, right? You're used to carrying larger tools around. Maybe this won't bother you. But not everybody lives that life, right? I think for, you know, a lot of people, I would guess most of the people watching this right now, this is going to be a super cumbersome object to carry day to day. Maybe you just like big knives. You're like, Metal Complex, I don't care. I'll deal with it. Then, you know, hey, power to you. How about a hardware check? Let's get my tools out. As per usual, tools, very inexpensive, very recommendable. You can find them down in the My Tools section of my description, along with everything else that I use on this channel, if you're curious. I think the body screws are all T8. Yeah, and there's a bunch of them. This is really unnecessary. Really, really unnecessary. Perhaps they're in here as a guard because the spacing is wide enough. They don't want your fingers getting in there and touching the blade. I don't know. I can't touch the blade anyway. No, so that's not it. This is unnecessary. We really just a couple, right? They could put one here, and I think that would have been fine, or they could have done a backspacer. I mean, at the weight of this guy, it really wouldn't have mattered. So there's a lot of unnecessary hardware, but at least it's T8, right? And then the pivot screw, I believe, is a T10. Yeah, let's give that a go. T10. Yep. No adjustment head on this side. The pocket clip screws are T6, so that's fine, whatever. So yeah, a lot of unnecessary hardware, but it shouldn't be that difficult to take apart, so I do appreciate that. How about blade stock thickness on this guy? It's not horribly thick. I mean, it's just everything including the frame is very thick, but the blade stock itself on this guy is only about 140. It's saying 147 thousandths. It's probably about 145, so slightly thicker than the Spyderco PM2. But you can see the scales make the blade look so much thinner than it is. Whoops-a-daisy. Yeah, the blade stock thickness is about the same as maybe the PM2 is about 145, but the scale and liner thickness just make the blade look thinner than it is, but it's fairly robust. So there you go. Let's take a look at the inside. Flashlight also listed down in the description. Steel liners that have actually, yeah, they have. I'm sorry, they have been milled out just a little bit for some weight reduction. G10, and then of course K110. Bowler K110 is fancy D2. What does fancy mean? What benefit do I get from it being fancy? Nothing. It's Bowler's version of D2. Maybe it's more expensive to buy the D2, but you know, maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's more consistent quality in K110. I don't know. As far as I understand, K110 is the same thing as D2, so I'm gonna proceed as if that's the case. Weight. What do I think here? I'm gonna say this guy's 6.5 to 7.5 ounces. Okay, yeah, a little higher, 7.8 ounces. This is huge. Ratios are off. It's tall, it's thick, right? I think we beat that into the ground. Big knife, not going to be comfortable to carry, not going to be anywhere near legal for some people. So take that into consideration before you pick this up. Moving on to the actual review. Wow, this thing is cool. Sometimes, you know, craziness is welcome, right? This thing is a huge, crazy knife. Now, obviously, there are bigger knives that are crazier. This guy, he never seen the Cold Steel Espada XL. I bet Cold Steel Espada XL, that's a big knife. Thank you. I know what the Cold Steel Espada XL is. Thank you. Yeah, we've all seen Expendables. Anyways, big knife though, right? I was talking with Nick Shabazz about this the other day. Now, this doesn't necessarily have any crazy design elements, but it's kind of just wacky. Like, there's a lot of unnecessary here, you know? And I kind of appreciate that. Like, for one, the thumb studs are huge. And it actually makes it real easy to deploy for such a big knife. It also has really good action. You can reverse flick this thing. Watch, no risk. You can reverse flick it. It's cool. There's no place in my life for something like this, right? We haven't even got to the bigger guy yet. But yeah, I kind of do appreciate they're like, you know, they're like, screw it, let's just make a huge knife, right? And they did it pretty well. I mean, there's some goofball stuff here, but they did do it well. Number one, ergonomically, it's pretty comfortable. Edges nicely knocked down. I kind of like this rock pattern on the, almost like blue jeans. It's like blue and black, kind of maybe just a dark gray. And I don't know, it kind of looks like blue jeans to me. I like that rock pattern on there, that carved, right? Sand underwater sort of pattern. It looks nice. Edges nicely knocked down. The lips of the steel liners come out perfectly flush to the scales. Fit and finish on this is good, right? Like I said, there's some goofball elements, but when it comes to like quality execution, it's really good. Thumb studs are in the right place. Easy access to the liner lock. You can see it's nicely carved out there. That's real good. No double clutch because that area right there, definitely not a... You can kind of use it as, it's like a one knuckle finger tool. So, okay, I'll give it that, right? I'm going to use it as basically the secondary stop because there is, where I'm comfortable is about right here. Fortunately, the detent ball's not, well, I'm sorry, unfortunately, the detent ball is not quite up on the face of the blade. So I found myself doing this. If you're brave, get your finger in exactly the right spot and it should catch this area right here. But I would say, because of how they've done this, that nub where it's catching my thumb right there, I'm not really showing it on camera. The detent ball doesn't make it up on the face of the blade until about right here, which is, that nub is past my thumb, right? So, okay. But if you get it, you know, hold it sideways, then turn it over, action is completely and totally falls shut. And I think that's mainly because it's just a gigantic blade, but it does feel pretty good. Pocket clip is not a short clip, but because of how long the blade is, I'm not really feeling it. Honestly, what I'm feeling is this thing. It's not terrible, but I'm definitely like, oh yeah, that little Pokeball is there, right? What is it? It's a lock for the liner lock, right? So you turn it and then it won't disengage. I think the liner lock's good enough. I think liner locks are fine without, right? I mean, for people who are like, oh, you know, for my grappling hook days, that'll come in handy. I mean, all right. Well, for the other 99.999% of us, it's just something that digs into your hand. It's locked out. Liner locks don't need a secondary lock, right? Unless you're doing something stupid or completely outside of the realm of normal for a folding knife, you don't need extra support or extra fortitude. Is that the right word? For the liner lock, right? Okay. Just don't, I don't know. I don't know why that's there. It doesn't need to be there. Yeah, but otherwise, you know, ergonomics, I mean, I'm locked in. It does have, they have pretty aggressive suggestions. I don't want to say aggressive. You know, they're like, hey, put your hands here, right? You can choke back 4-finger. There's enough room here where you can really choke back if you want to do some light impact cutting, if you have to, right? If this is a camp knife, or you can choke up here. You can even, with one knuckle, choke up here, right? Some nice jimping up here, just enough to gain a little bit of traction, nothing crazy, but it's there. Wow, the blade, holy moly. It makes me think of a roided out version of the SOCOM Elite. Not necessarily, it's just like a doppelganger to the SOCOM Elite from Microtech. It says Maxace on one side, on the other side it says Sandstorm K and K110. We don't need Sandstorm K there, but that's fine. It's not really hurting anything. We have a kind of a concrete tumbling. At first I thought it was bead blast. It's just kind of a, you know, sort of darker, non-reflective tumbling. I think that's fine. Flat that carries out about 60% the length of the blade. There's plenty of robustness carried out to the tip, but it does, I mean, I'm sorry, there's plenty of material out here, but this way it tapers to, honestly, a surprisingly thin, I mean, down, yeah, the edge is pretty darn thin. For something that's so robust, you have, there's such a long ways for it to drop down to the cutting edge. I mean, this will slice. Definitely. This will definitely cut, and the edge is done well. It's a nice sticky edge too, the factory edge. Really nice. Again, it's totally overkill for most people, but it's done well, right? It's all right. Moving on here, again, way too many standoffs. Oh, we should talk about it. Just the stop pin. It's huge, very robust, which is good. And there's shouldering, which is the way that it should be, considering every time you throw this blade, there's a lot of impact on that stop pin, right? But that's nice. I'm glad they did that. And then there's the closed position stop pin in there. Way too many standoffs. Don't know why they're doing that. But that's fine. They look nice, right? One of them is different. Why? Skinny, skinny, skinny. Rick Hinderer, right? I mean, like, it's like, why didn't you just do them all the same? I don't get it. I have no idea why they did that. But okay, it's not really hurting anything. Oh no, there's no lanyard hole. Honestly, on a larger knife, there might be a reason for that. I mean, for people who are going to do maybe some light. I'm not saying make your campfire out with this knife. I'm saying, you know, if you need some kindling or something, you're just trying to, you know. Yeah, okay, maybe you would want a lanyard. It's kind of funny to me, you know, as much as I criticize lanyards, this one doesn't have one, and I'm like, maybe it should have a lanyard. The pocket clip functions just fine, and honestly, it carries fairly deep, right? It's just like, why do people make these big, robust knives, and then this little skinny clip, like, bigger clip? You could have done the exact same thing, just made it a little wider, and it would have looked much better with the entire, like, you know, the frame of this knife is big and wide and robust. And I think that a wider clip would have looked better. I don't think it would have bothered my hands any more than that. In fact, this guy doesn't really bother. I mean, even choke back, choke up, I don't feel it because the bill is not super aggressive, right? It's honestly done pretty well. Just a little wider, right? The clip is steel, and the liners are definitely steel as well. I want to make sure that that's clear. On this one, on the bigger guy, this is all titanium. On this guy, it's steel. The rest of the knife on this side looks much the same as the front, except for the Pokeball and the pocket clip, right? Centering is dead perfect. No detent lash. Lockup is absolutely solid. So, it's gigantic. It's got a little bit of double clutch. It has a totally unnecessary liner lock, double engager / Pokeball thing that's going to dig into your hand. Pocket clip looks like an afterthought. It's way too skinny for the design. It functions perfectly fine. I just want something different, right? Mainly, guys, this is huge. It's a huge knife. It's cool. I like it. I kind of like, that Maxace was like, yeah, whatever. We're going to make a freaking gigantic knife. I mean, it's kind of neat. It's one of the more robust knives in this price range that I've reviewed here lately. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest knives I have ever reviewed in this price range. And I know that there are bigger knives out there. I know. I have 2,000 uploads. I'm aware, right? I'm not trying to flex. I'm just saying, like, I know. I know that they're there. I do. But anyways, what does this come in at? So, quick search around the internet. The least expensive pricing that I've seen from a reputable dealer. Why am I saying that? It's because there are certain places that I don't recommend people buy knives. And people probably know where I'm referring to. But the least expensive that I can find this thing from a reputable dealer that doesn't sell clones of anything, right, is about $95. I think I found that on, I can't remember where I saw that, right? White Mountain Knives had this for $110. Blade HQ had it for $110, but they were sold out, right? I think $110's too high. Why am I paying? What's the extra money for? This is G10 D2. It's put together well. And it's definitely, guys, this is a step up from what you get from Civivi, CJRB, down at the $50 price mark. A lot of people hear G10 and D2, in this case K110, and they automatically, it doesn't matter what it is or how it's made, it must be less than $50. No, this is a step up from that. Not because it's bigger, I'm saying the overall attention to detail and quality and final polishing, right, the feel of everything. This is a step up from that. $110? No, it should be under $100. In fact, honestly, I think I'd be a lot more comfortable with this thing under $90. This feels like an $80 knife, right? And I think the least expensive that I'm seeing it, right, if you're lucky, you might find it for $95 when it's in stock. It's only $15 higher. Can I recommend this knife? I mean, there's a ton of reasons not to recommend this knife. It's too big. It's cool. And here's the thing. If you're wondering, if you're like, listen, I don't care what you say. I'm a big knife guy, so I'm going to ignore all that, right? I just want to know, is it made well? Is it functional, right? The material's good. Is it going to serve me well? Yeah, this is going to annoy you big time. But this is a well-made knife, right? If you're comfortable with $95 to $110, knock yourself out, right? This is a well-made knife. But for me, it's not recommendable, generally speaking, because it is massive. Massive. For those of you who need a massive pocket knife day to day, which there's probably very few of you, right? If you can find use of something like this, you're probably in fixed blade territory, right? But for those of you who truly do need the convenience of a folding object that is this big, right? The small percentage of you, I suppose I could kind of recommend this. I think it's a little bit overpriced. For the vast majority of the people watching this video, though, no. There are more convenient items to carry day to day. I mean, in terms of quality, you're like, yeah, this is up there, right? But more convenient, definitely. And there are less expensive knives that are bringing the same level of quality to the table. This is cool, though, and I do applaud Maxace for making something kind of ridiculous and really pushing the quality front here. Because let me emphasize again, this is a nice knife, right? It's a little high. Had they done something different, had they done something like 154 cm for the steel, which I believe, I mean, I know that it's not the same edge retention as D2, but I think overall it's a more premium steel. Actually, I just prefer it, right? I think I would have been a little bit more like, okay, right? Still, it's just way too big to recommend like for day to day, which is what this channel, I consider the design elements, and what I do at the end of the video is exactly what I did here. I say who I think might enjoy it or who might find more value in it, right? But I know that like at least 80% of you guys are like me. It's just day to day, right? So generally recommendable? No. Is it cool? Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely one of the more interesting knives that's come across my table here recently. I do want to thank Maxace for sending this in for me to take a look at. Very much appreciate that. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it today. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.